We've established that a general is the strut of the state. But what happens when that strut is cracked? In this lesson, Sun Tzu identifies three specific ways an incompetent leader or an overreaching politician can hobble an army and lead a nation to ruin. Through the lens of the invasion of Ukraine, we see exactly how these ancient faults manifest in modern high-stakes warfare. The first fault is mistiming advances and retreats. Sun Tzu uses the ideogram for tying an ox's legs. If a leader doesn't understand the terrain, the weather, or the morale of their troops, they might order a march when they should retreat, or stay put when they should strike. Early in the 2022 invasion, a massive Russian military convoy became famously stuck on the road to Kiev. This was hobbling in its purest form. Because of poor planning regarding mud, fuel, and fierce Ukrainian resistance, the army became immobile, like a great ox tied to a stake. A leader who cannot assimilate information to time their moves correctly turns a powerful force into a stationary target. The second fault is the civilian mindset. Sun Tzu argues that military and civil governance are two different worlds. If a ruler tries to run the army like a civilian bureaucracy, the soldiers become restless and confused. In modern warfare, this often looks like micromanagement from the capital. Throughout this conflict, there has been reports of high-level political figures in Moscow reportedly making tactical, small-unit decisions. Sun Tzu warns that a military commander must be a professional soldier, not a political appointee. When a sovereign interferes with the day-to-day military reality, they strip the army of its ability to adapt, leading to restlessness and lack of trust. The third fault is putting civilian officers in charge of military matters. If an officer doesn't know the protocol of war, the unspoken language of discipline and maneuver, they will cause disruption. One of Ukraine's key advantages has been the professionalism of its NCO Corps. Unlike the old Soviet model where political officers or rigid hierarchies dominated, Ukraine empowered professional soldiers who were trained in the actual art of war. Sun Tzu's warning is clear. When you fill the ranks of leadership with people based on loyalty or civilian status rather than military expertise, the Allied army fails. The war tip for this lesson is a hard line in the sand. Appoint only military personnel to leadership positions. Do not allow civilian leaders to interfere with the day-to-day running of the force. If you treat war like a political campaign, you will lose. If you treat your soldiers like civilian employees, they will falter. War requires a professional, military mind that understands that a retreat isn't a political failure. It is often a strategic necessity. When an army is hobbled by poor timing, civilian interference, or untrained leaders, Sun Tzu warns that trouble is sure to come from other feudal princes. In modern terms, your enemies will smell blood in the water. Remember, a professional army needs a professional head. To summarize this lesson, incompetence is the mother of defeat. Don't hobble the ox. A leader must know when to move. To stay when you should go, or go when you should stay, renders the army useless. Respect the divide. Military and civilian governance are distinct. Political interference in the field leads to restless soldiers and failed strategies. Professionalism is paramount. Officers must be military trained. Civilian interference in the military protocol causes chaos. In Ukraine, the difference between success and failure has often come down to which side allowed its professional soldiers to lead without being hobbled by the politics of the capital. As Sun Tzu said, If the bulwark is defective, the state will be weak. Protect your strut. As we conclude our exploration of this lesson, we are left with a stark warning about the fragility of command. Sun Tzu's imagery of the hobbled ox isn't just a metaphor for a slow army. It is a warning about the paralysis that occurs when the wrong hands hold the reins. In the modern theater of Ukraine, we've seen that the three faults aren't just ancient history. They are live-action risks. We've witnessed how political micromanagement from a distant capital can turn a superpower's advance into a stagnant convoy, and how a lack of professional military protocol can shatter the confidence of even the most well-equipped force. To summarize the three fatal errors: the error of timing. An army that cannot advance or retreat with fluid precision is an army that is already defeated. Timing is the heartbeat of a maneuver. The error of mindset. A military cannot be governed like a civilian state. The rules of the boardroom and the palace do not apply in the mud of the trenches. The error of authority. When civilian interference replaces professional military expertise, the result is restlessness and anarchy. Trust is the first casualty of an amateur command. Sun Tzu's final war tip for this lesson is a call for professional boundaries. Let the soldiers lead the soldiers. When a ruler respects the expertise of their generals, the bulwark remains strong. But when the lines between civilian politics and military reality blur, the state loses its ability to adapt. And in war, the inability to adapt is the only truly unforgivable sin. Stay professional, stay focused, and never let the sovereign tie the legs of the ox.